We got to talk about what is going on in the state of Oklahoma. I think this is fascinating. I think it is interesting. It's awesome and should be mandatory in every state in the country. Well, in 48 of the states, because two of them can't participate, because they're at the crux of what the issue is. Oklahoma, the education guy, the superintendent over at Oklahoma's education department, said he will now be requiring a new test for any teacher to become certified to teach in Oklahoma if you're coming to the state from New York or California. Yes, in an attempt to eliminate woke radical left ideology, says, hey, we're going to give you this test to make sure that you're not a freaking crazy person coming from the most ridiculous states in the union. Now, you may be wondering, why is Dennis Prager on the screen in the over-the-shoulder box? Well, the reason is because the test will be administered by PragerU. It'll be a 50-question test, and although the Oklahoma superintendent hasn't released the full test, they did release a couple sample questions, and before libs lose their mind, I have pretty strong opinions on this. If you can't answer some of these questions for the sample question, I don't know why you have any business teaching America's kids, let alone freaking voting. Although I don't know if I have the power to unilaterally take away that right from American citizens. I wish I did, but some of the questions, well, for example, one of the questions is this: can you name or recite the first 3 words in the U.S. Constitution? Now, I'll give AOC and our other lib viewers a chance to think about that, because that's not something they're familiar with, the whole U.S. Constitution and the idea of America as a whole. But again, if you can't answer that question, yeah, I don't think you should be teaching in Oklahoma schools, let alone voting in our elections. I think you should self-unvote or keep yourself from the polls, because if you don't know that, I'm not sure what else you know. Here to comment on that and so much more is Justine Murray, who's with the Media Research Center, and Turning Point USA contributor Anthony Watson. Guys, thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me on.
Anthony, let's start with you here. There's obviously pushback. Randy Weingarten, the head of the biggest teachers union in the country, is saying this is just a MAGA loyalty test. What do you think about Oklahoma instituting a test for teachers coming from, again, New York and California?
Well, I think it's what everyone's been saying in the media, everyone who's a parent, everyone who's been in communities that have seen people impacted by the lack of education, and from what schools have been producing nowadays. And if everyone remembers, if you look at the electoral voting map from 2024, Oklahoma was the only state that was entirely red. There was no blue, no liberal, and no counties in there that did that. So it's no surprise to me where all across the country, all of these big cities, these corrupt school boards, where education has been proven to fail, the people that it's been designed to help are now looking to the Midwest to now find out what it is that's working, that's actually started to produce results. All of these things that you've started seeing from everybody else, everyone has been saying it's this new thing that's going to make it easier, going to make education and information more attainable and more applicable in areas, if we just tell kids how gay they are or how black they are or how oppressed they are, all of these other things. And then when they get into the real world, they're not equipped for anything that is corporate. They're not equipped for anything that actually has merit or any kind of meritocracy or any kind of articulation that needs to show that they've actually learned something, which then sends them just to go work for all of these nonprofits where they just rage bait people into guilt tripping them into giving them more money. So Dennis Prager has always been the leader of all of these things, from his informational videos to all the education that he's put out there. So I'm really excited, and I'm really impressed to see what Oklahoma produces out of that.
I really am excited too, and I'm excited that PragerU is going to be administering those tests. Justine, Tina Ellsworth, who is the president of the nonprofit National Council for Social Studies, said this, and this is a quote: "State boards of education should stay true to the values and principles of the U.S. Constitution. Imposing an ideology test to become a teacher in our great democracy is antithetical to those principles." In other words, saying, okay, asking teachers if they know anything about the Constitution is not constitutional. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but what are your thoughts there?
Right, and you'd think being a social studies teacher, you would be required to know what the Constitution actually states and not actually stand against a cognitive test. But of course, these people would be angry, especially coming from New York, where they did away with cognitive tests in order to become a teacher just recently, and in California, where San Francisco required students to take these critical race theory courses. They taught 1619 as an ideology, claiming that America was founded in 1619 and America was based on slavery and evil. They're the ones who wanted to change history and indoctrinate students. And now they're claiming that, oh, well, PragerU asking you to basically know your history and know your facts before becoming a teacher, well, that's indoctrination.
Yeah, it is ridiculous too, especially when you saw places like California saying, hey, in order to be a part of our school faculty here at the University of California, you have to pledge allegiance to the woke mob. And the fact that a state saying, hey, what are the first three words of the U.S. Constitution? That's all this. This is terrible. Like, all right, give me a break, especially with the hypocrisy there.